Greetings, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor. I got thinking based on circumstances and different things that went on this past week. It reminded me of a phrase that a friend of mine used to say. She'd say, Sue, life is a sweet sour. And it took me a while to figure out what she meant, and then I got it. So let's talk about the sweet. So last week, I had 2 days that I labeled perfect. So a perfect day to me is usually a series of events, some tiny and some big, and lots of times just moments that I would label as perfect. And of course, the accumulation of all of those perfect moments, those perfect events, those perfect whatever happened that I deemed perfect added up to, oh, it was a perfect day when I thought back afterwards. Things just went well. The traffic was not an issue. I wasn't stressed throughout the day. And so I had my happy on, no question of that. And I was bubbling with, oh, just a perfect day. So this is part of my magnificent life, right? And I was pretty happy about that. Well, as often happens in life, things shifted. And my perfect days turned into not so perfect days. I have some friends in my life who are going through some health challenges, and there's some aging issues and worrisome things that I was faced with, and never mind all the doom and gloom that's on the news and people commenting about, oh, ain't it awful? I went to the grocery store and you wouldn't believe how expensive groceries are. And not that that isn't true, because I went to the grocery store too and I noticed, wow, not very many bargains, and the prices sure went up. So I did notice that. And so there was this pervading, it was like this dark fog just started to descend and descend. And of course, when that happens, there's all kinds of triggers that go along. I mean, I like being in my happy place. And so when it flips, whoo, that's harder for me. So all of those old patterns that would come at me would try to swamp my boat. And then so I was feeling kind of down, kind of blue. And then a muscle in my right butt cheek just seized right up. And I forget what that muscle's called, but it went right. It's the one that goes right down into your knee and down into your ankle. So every time I got up, I could feel this weakness, and there was this strain and struggle. And I'm going, oh, what have I done now? And so then immediately the punishing parent kicks in. Well, Sue, you haven't been doing as much walking as you should have been doing, and you're sitting around too much, and what's the matter with you? And you know you're not eating properly either. And this whole litany goes in my head. So there's my punishing parent on this hand, and then my poor victimized child on the other hand saying, yeah, but it's not my fault, and there's bad stuff going on in my life right now, and I'm feeling sorry for myself, and I don't want to get up, and I and then of course the third dynamic enters the picture, the survivor who can't stand this bickering between my not okay kid and my punishing parent, and says, oh, for heaven's sake, just take a pill. You know you've got that muscle relaxer. Just go take it, and you'll feel better, and you can just forget all about it. Well, that's the madness, right? That's where we just drive ourselves right round the bend and back again. And then, of course, there's that still small voice that says, Sue, there's something more going on here. And I'm going, yeah, you're right. There is something more going on here. But I didn't want to face it right then. And so I went for a long walk to ease this muscle, and of course, and to shut up my punishing parent, and patted myself on the back. Oh, Sue, you put in over 4,000 steps. Good for you. That was great. And I did what I could physically to ease myself. And but in the back, that little voice was still, Sue, what's this all about? So okay, at some point I gave in and said, all right, right side of the body, physical. From an emotional, mental, spiritual standpoint, what does that represent to me? Well, it represents, could this tightening of the muscle in my struggle to move forward have anything to do with where I'm at in my life, where I'm at in my business, that fear of moving forward? And I'm going, oh, yeah, probably. Probably that's what's going on. Well, it kind of ticks me off when that still small voice is always right. But anyway, there it is. Not that I'm to blame for my current condition. Let's leave blame out of this. However, it is my life and I am responsible for it. And obviously, I'm at cause because I'm the one that decides if I'm in my happy place or if I'm headed towards doom and gloom. That's my deal. So, well, what am I going to do about it? And of course, I could stay in the madness. I could just drive myself into further and further down that rabbit hole of ain't it awful, and join all the rest of the people that are down there. Or I could say, no, Sue, you do know better than that, regardless of what anybody else is doing. It's nothing to do with anybody else. It's nothing to do with the circumstances out there. It's not even anything really to do with the physical state of your body, because that's just a signal. That's just an indication, a dis-ease that says something is not right here. Something is going on that it's time to look at. So I did. So I looked at it. Because of course, what I want, my desire, my mission possible is to say, oh, I want better than that. I want more than that. I've been opening up and embracing this idea of magnificence for a long time now. And surely I'm not going to let myself fall back into the pit and stay there. Oh, I still fall back into the pit, but I don't want to stay there. And so how do I pull myself back up out of the muck and say, okay, what's really going on here? Because I desire to live the best life I can live. I desire to make an impact, not only for myself but for those around me. And I'm guessing that there's a bunch of you out there that are watching this that are in this same boat with me, that you can quickly, easily say, oh yeah, yeah, I was there, did that, didn't like it, don't want to be there. But what do we do? How do we get out of that? Like, what is there a fix, an antidote, a pill? Well, not a physical pill. I haven't found there to be a physical pill that worked any more than just temporarily. And sometimes the repercussions from self-medicating like that were worse than if I had just stayed in my self-induced pain and said, okay, Sue, let's take a look at this. Let's investigate. Let's pull it apart and see what's happening. So when I did, so what is this fear? Well, of course, life's uncertain. There are no guarantees. Life's a risk. And every time we decide to do something, particularly for me, anytime I wanted to follow my passions and just immerse myself, there's some old behaviors and old thinking patterns that hold me back and say, oh, Sue, I don't know if you want, there might be dragons out there if you go that route. So this little this series of useless chatter goes on in the back, hoping to stop me in my tracks or at least slow me down. And for a little while I am slowed down until I realized, Sue, first of all, I don't think what you're fearful of is life threatening. And even if it is, well, you know all about what it's like to go to the afterlife. It's pretty cool there. Well, then all your problems are gone. So that's not an issue. So if it killed me, oh well, then I don't have to think about any of this stuff anymore. Nothing else is going to drive me. So so I looked at, remember that old acronym? You've probably seen it. They took fear and then put a word for each letter. So false evidence appearing real. Well, we've heard that phrase, and I know I have so many times that it kind of lost its meaning for me. But if I revisit that, false evidence appearing real. So that's where fake news comes from, right? It incites people to great fear with false evidence. So it isn't really true, but they just want to jack you up so that then you get really, really scared. And of course, people who are really, really scared about lots of things don't take action that's going to be helpful. I know I don't. I usually, for me, I freeze. So we can when we're fearful, we can fight, we can flee, we can freeze. And oh, there's one other that somebody told me and I don't remember it. Maybe I'll think about it as we go. But anyway, my default is to freeze. I run inside. I freeze and I'm immobilized while I'm in the midst of that fear. So my good ability to think straight seems to disappear, and I'm just this seething mass of emotions that are causing me a great deal of distress. Well, but then somebody says, "Oh no, Sue, that's just made up." And I'm, "What? You mean all of that evidence that pointed to this, and this, it's not true?" "No, it's not true." Oh, well, then I relax. I start to take a deep breath, and then I say, "Well, if that's not true, then what else have I been muddling about that also isn't true?" Lots of things. Lots of things. So there's our first line of, I guess it would be between defense and offense. And maybe it's a standing our ground where we say, wait a minute, I'm going to stand my ground. I'm not going to go on the offense. I'm not going to attack because that probably isn't appropriate in this moment. And I'm not going to flee because that won't do me any good either. What if I stand my ground and I stand in the power that I know is right inside of me and say, well, regardless of what's going on around me, I know how to take care of me. I know how strong I am inside myself. So, regardless of the circumstances, I can find my level of peace. I can find my level of contentment. I can find my level of happiness, of whatever that looks like, that says, yeah, this is on the road to my magnificent life. Nobody is knocking me off that road. I'm going to continue down that path. So really, it is all inside of us. And someone fairly recently I was watching some kind of interview and they were saying, well, we tend to have an idea that the soul resides within the body. So and it's in the heart space. And this particular person said, that's backwards. That perception was that our bodies reside within our soul. Well, looking at it from that perspective, if our bodies in fact reside within our soul, so here's our huge, magnificent soul, our body is the vehicle that enables us to experience things. And our body is this phenomenal barometer that quickly signals if something different is going on. So, if a fly or a mosquito lands on your arm and there's your arm hairs, our bodies are so sensitized, immediately, oh, something's on my arm. And you look down, of course, well, if it's me, it's a mosquito, I'm bam, doing what I can so it doesn't suck my blood. And so we're so attuned, the body is so attuned to the least little thing if we pay attention. And when we pay attention, so when I started focusing on this issue with this tight muscle in my body and said, oh, something is going on. And when I had the determination to sit with it and take a look at it, it eased. It heard, it saw that I heard. And it said, oh, okay, she got the message. So where did that message come from? Well, I'm pretty sure it came from my soul, because in the next, when I was open to paying attention, it said, Sue, there's more going on here. And then I said, yeah, well, I've learned how to look at it. I've learned how to take it apart. And I realized, oh, I'm kind of hanging out in fear about what's in front of me, about the unknown that I see laid out. I have some pretty exciting things coming up that I am excited about. And at the same time, that's the sweet part. I'm pretty excited about this. There's a little fearful part there. Yeah, but what if? And some of those old niggly little thoughts want to sneak in. And I'm going, it's okay. It's okay to have those niggly thoughts. They'll probably always be with me, but they're not as loud as they used to be because I don't give it that much attention. And that's probably the second strategy that I've learned over time, is that what we feed grows. If I feed my negative emotions and my negative thoughts and all of the traumatic, disastrous, whatever that's coming at me, it grows. It's like sourdough starter. For you feed it, it grows. Well, but the same thing is also true if I feed my happy thoughts, my positive thoughts, my embracing thoughts, the compassionate thoughts, the kindness thoughts. Well, if I feed those, they grow. So what do you want to feed? What are you feeding right now? And if you're not happy with the way your life is going, or if things just feel pretty shitty right now, then a change of mindset is what's required. And it's like flipping the light switch, on or off, on or off, on or off. Oh, well, how do you can't think a positive thought and a negative thought at the same time. If you can, I can't. If you can, let me know, because I'd be curious on how that works. But I just know that if I'm thinking happy thoughts, there's no room for positive thoughts. If I'm thinking negative thoughts, well, there's not hardly a positive thought to be seen. So there it is. You're shifting your attention to what you most want, what you most desire. And as you work with that, then the possibilities open up. So instead of being punishing parent when things go wrong, I can hold a great deal of compassion and say, oh, is that happening right now? I'm so sorry. And just sit with it and give myself that internal hug that I might need. Maybe I didn't do everything right. So what? Maybe I could have done something better. So what? I'm dealing with what's real right in front of me. And I know that if I allow it to play itself out, it can dissipate very, very quickly. And if I allow myself to shift into something better, so the other strategy I've used is the gratitude strategy. So if I'm feeling really down in the dumps, then I start thinking, okay, what am I grateful for right in this second? And I just start making a little list. Well, I'm grateful that I have a cup of tea right here. I'm grateful that I get to talk to you. I'm grateful that the sun is shining. I'm grateful that I have a little fan to cool me off in my office. Well, the second I start listing all those things, I lift my mood. I elevate myself up above wherever I was in the muck. And then life doesn't look so bad. Oh, well, maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was. And the second that I move into that arena, I'm out of it. And then I have an opportunity. And I think if we look at oh, physiologically, what, what happens in the body, then that those soothing hormones and the chemicals that give us relief and release just start flooding our bodies, and we're going, oh, that's better, that's better. So you know what's happened with my hip? Because I woke up this morning with, this is what I'm going to talk to you about today. As the day has progressed, as I've been talking to you, I'm feeling this hip releasing more and more and more. The muscle is softening and relaxing. It was already better this morning before I got out of bed. I could feel a change in my body. And I thought, okay, I've faced this head on. And now that I'm focusing on it, I'm not ignoring it or hoping it'll go away, then I'm on my way. That's what I want for you. So think about the sweet sour of life. Think about how, it's like waves coming in from the ocean. The waves come in, the waves go out. The waves come in, the waves go out. Am I going to have 7 perfect days in a row? That would be nice, I think. So far, I've had 2. And I've also had a couple of days that were pretty sour. And so I think if I embrace and accept that that's part of just the way I roll, then it's okay. I can accept that and say, oh, well, it'll get better. And of course, when I have those down days, I sure appreciate the really good ones. And so maybe that's all part of it, to appreciate what we have more and more and more and more. Even the stuff that we would label crummy, we say, you know, this too shall pass. I wish you a magnificent day, and just go be your magnificent self. And we'll talk to you again soon.